Welcome in. It is the Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Christian Esparza sitting across from me. Christian, how are we doing this morning, man?
It's been a week.
It has been a week.
It's been a week.
It has been a week.
Crazy week here in Salt Lake City with the Mammoth having their backs against the wall all week, essentially. And
a lot of fun hockey, though.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
it's over.
Hockey.
But, man, the environment here in Salt Lake City, even going back to not last night, but the Friday before with the first home game ever, it was awesome, man. And it was really special to be a part of it. And it feels like there's something brewing here with this Mammoth team and this Mammoth organization. And it just feels like the start of something special. And
Absolutely.
A lot of people are going to remember this first series. There are a lot of new Mammoth fans that maybe weren't paying attention earlier on in the season, but they catch the playoff fever and they're like, oh, man, this is really cool. And so, yeah, the last week has been really, really fun. Can't wait to break it down. We're going to do that here in a second. But outside of that, I'm doing great. Birthday shout out to my wife real quick.
Hey,
it was her
there you
birthday
go.
yesterday, so
Happy birthday.
happy birthday to her. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Sean behind the glass producing. Sean, you good? Everything good back there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had my first grill session.
Hey, there you
Made
go.
some steaks.
Wow.
There you go.
May 1st, busted out the grill.
Medium rare?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What kind of steaks?
Ribeye, of course.
Wow.
Fancy.
Oh, my goodness.
That's awesome, man.
I'm jealous.
They were thin. They weren't like nice stick cuts. They're
You know
as
what,
cheap as
man?
I could find.
You know what, man? With how beautiful the weather is out today, I might have to get out there and make some steaks myself on this wonderful Saturday morning. Let's jump in and talk talk Mammoth, and I want to talk a little bit about too the overtime games that happened earlier this week. I won't focus on them too much, obviously, since we had that game last night to eliminate the Mammoth, but. The interesting stat, Christian, that I kept seeing all week long was the Mammoth and how they led in the third period for just about every game of this series, and yet weren't able to hold on, weren't able to close it off. And just imagine how differently things could have been had, the Mammoth won either that Monday overtime game where they let the lead slip in the third period, or in Vegas where they just had to hold on for 53 seconds.
Yeah.
53 seconds.
So that's actually, I'm glad you bring up that 53 seconds, because that's one thing I noticed last night. The Golden Knights got their second goal of the game with less than a minute left. It was like 45 seconds left in the second period. And the Knights put that in the back of the net, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, it feels like this Mammoth team, especially throughout this playoff series, had a real problem with giving up goals in the final minute of a period, whether it's a regulation period or an overtime period. I'm thinking of the game that went to single overtime and they lost. That goal they allowed with like 53 seconds left, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, 45 seconds left last night. And there were a few other periods throughout the series where, the Knights just put a puck in the back of the net with less than a minute remaining.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, was that part of the mentality of this team where they kind of felt back up against the ropes, feeling the pressure and knowing that Vegas is obviously more experienced and they've been here before? If maybe there was a mentality that started creeping through this Mammoth team of, okay, can we just close out the period? And when you start thinking of, we just got to finish this period and then we get a break, and that's like the worst thing to do, right? Because that's when you start playing way too defensive and sometimes even making mistakes. And I think, like I said, I noticed that way too many times with this team this series. And I don't know, man. It is really weird to notice that pattern, like less than a minute left and the Knights have a puck and it feels inevitable.
The Monday game was super fun. And it was honestly, I thought something that the Mammoth could build on, because you're down 3-0 early in the second period. I think 3 minutes into the second period, Cole Smith scores to make it 3-0, and then all of a sudden the Mammoth come roaring back at Delta Center. Nick Schmaltz gets a goal, Ian Cole gets a goal, Carconi equalizes, and then you have Clayton Keller who puts the Mammoth up with 5 minutes left, and it felt like the team got really defensive, really, really conservative really quickly.
Yeah.
Howden scores, and then obviously Theodore gets the goal late in overtime. The second overtime game too was heartbreaking and a little bit of a gut punch for the Mammoth, I think, because you have the shorthanded goal where the Mammoth are up on the power play, and then you allow Howden again to score the winner that down there in Vegas in the second overtime. But then last night, man, not the most ideal time to have your one of the worst, probably worst performances you've had in this entire series. Obviously, it's you're down 3-2. Vegas are trying to close out the series and get the win, and the Mammoth, I thought, lacked a little bit of that bite that we've seen earlier in the series yesterday to close out Game 6.
Well, and it was interesting too because the Mammoth did cut it to a 2-1 game. 7 minutes into the third period.
Gave a lot of people hope.
And you hear the Delta Center pop, and you see that clip going around, and then basically less than a minute later, Vegas responds, and that literally you felt the back break of the Mammoth.
There's a lot of things that I think plague the Mammoth this series, and ended up being bad for the Mammoth.
That was the other big mistake.
I think that's one of the things that plagued them a lot too, is the fact that you score a goal and then immediately concede it on the other end. And in this case with Kyler Yamamoto, that was that's what happened exactly last night.
Yeah, and again, I hate to just throw the word experience out there, but it seems like with the youth of this Mammoth team, sometimes they make a mistake or something doesn't go their way, or they're just trying to get to the end of the period and they're like, let's just get through this. Versus when you saw Vegas face adversity, they trailed in 3 third periods and they were able to win.
Yep.
The Mammoth had every chance to win this series, man. Every chance. They led in 3 third periods, and they had a lead, and they blew them. So, I don't know. That kind of leads me to something I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to get your thoughts on, right? Because we heard in the preseason, basically, Coach Tourney, GMBA, Bill Armstrong, going around saying that they had been building, they had been rebuilding, and this year they were ready to take the step towards being a playoff team. And then they fight all year, they secure the top wild card spot, they become a playoff team. And now that the season is over, the series is over, it's like, okay, are you satisfied with the way that this season went? Taking the Golden Knights to 6 games, 3 of those losses you led in the third period, or do you feel like, man, you kind of let this one slip away from you? And I'm curious to your thoughts because I've seen a lot of back and forth on social media.
I think first and foremost, the future is bright for this team.
Yeah.
No matter which way you put it, no matter how you look at it, the future is bright. You know what's the amount of prospects that they have in the pipeline that are potentially going to be coming up here in the near future. The young core of this team, the Cooley, the Gunther, the Keller, the young core that the Mammoth have. There is a lot, I think, as far as the future being bright for this team, but you heard it time and time again. Anytime that GMBA would jump on the station early in the season, anytime that Andre Tourney would jump on the station early in the season, they talked about the goal being the playoffs. They talked about the goal is just to make it to the playoffs. Cole Bagley, our Utah Mammoth insider here on KSL Sports, last night also reminding people of that on Twitter last night and putting that out there that the goal was to make the playoffs. And I think that there is a lot of positives and a lot that you can look forward to in the future with this team, with it being a bright future, with the young core, with the young players that they have coming up, etc. On obviously decisions and moves that they can make in the offseason. I think, though, once you go toe-to-toe with the Vegas Golden Knights the way that you did, to force the 2 overtimes, to be leading in the third period as much as you did, I think ultimately there can be a sense of disappointment. And I think that ultimately there can be a sense of so close yet so far type feeling when you look at this series and lose 4-2 to the overall to the Golden Knights. And I hope that drives a message in the locker room. That disappointment drives a hunger in that locker room for next season to not only improve your point total, not only improve, where you were in the regular season, but also next year it's about getting to the playoffs and making an actual run in the playoffs rather than just being satisfied and the goal being, hey, let's just make it to the playoffs.
Well, I don't think anybody in the locker room or organization should just be satisfied with this season. Because why would you be, right? The ultimate goal is to win a Stanley Cup. And that's what Ryan Smith has said. And no, this team is not close. I'm not trying to pretend like this was their one shot to win a Stanley Cup and they're never going to be in the playoffs again. Because, that's the whole point of the long rebuild that this organization entered, going back to when they were still in Phoenix, right? they're playing the long game. And this is the first year of really being a playoff team, really being a relevant team in the NHL. Last year was fun. Last year was the introduction and, hey, this is so cool. And welcome to the NHL, guys. It's nice to have Salt Lake City as part of the league. That's completely different. This year, it really was establishing themselves like, hey, you got to take the Utah Mammoth seriously. They're not like some of these other teams that are still rebuilding or still bad.
Yeah.
The Mammoth are in the same category as other young teams like the Anaheim Ducks, like the San Jose Sharks, like some of these young up-and-coming teams that just have a ton of really young talent, right? So now you get the taste of playoff experience, and you know that you had this series in the palm of your hand, essentially, right? The Mammoth led the series at one point. Again, 3 of their 4 losses in this series, they held a lead in the third period. They had every opportunity to take this series home, and now you know what went wrong. Now you're going to make some, adjustments in the offseason.
Yeah.
And your players are going to know what it's like being in the playoffs. Like some of these guys that have never been here before, that can't be an excuse, right? We heard so many times like, oh yeah, Logan Cooley's never been Dylan Gunther's never been in the playoffs before. That's not an excuse anymore.
It can't, no.
So I'm excited to see what happens over the next couple months as you've got free agency and the draft and all that sort of stuff. And we'll see if GMBA makes some big swings. And I think that is my next kind of waiting and see thing. Like, does Bill Armstrong feel like this roster is good enough to just keep together and develop, or do they feel like they need to go get another piece? Because we saw the JJ Peterka trade. We saw the Mackenzie Weegar trade. I don't think any of those 2 players really performed up to the expectations that they were expecting when they got them.
Yeah.
But Cole Bagley brought up a good point yesterday with Jake and Ben. It's been less than a year, right? Like, you can't judge those trades right away. And I know it stings when Josh Doan is having a great season over in Buffalo, but I mean, JJ Peterka is still on the Mammoth. Mackenzie Weegar is still on the Mammoth. We got plenty of time to see them get better.
There's been a lot of criticism online about JJ Peterka.
Yeah.
And obviously that was a big talking point earlier this week where Andre Turney, was it the first OT or the second OT game where he benches JJ Peterka and he doesn't return onto the ice. And obviously that's met with a lot of scrutiny. Andre Turney talked about it in post-game press conferences and as well as some of the after-practice media availabilities and I think even a morning skate. But JJ Peterka has been a talking point a lot during this playoff series and about how he's underperforming. But you're absolutely right. Like, it's been less than a year, and to Cole's point, it's going to take a minute to truly judge where these guys are at. I still think J.D. Peterka can come in and be a massive difference maker for the Mammoth next season. Maybe get another season under him, a little bit more experience under him. But we'll see, man. We'll see how ultimately that trade pays off.
Yeah, it's tough because you make that trade, you trade away. I think part of the reason the trade stings is because you gave away a fan favorite, right? And everybody knows that. And then you come in selling that this dude had, 60 or 70 points last year, and you're expecting him to come and be electric, and he just wasn't. And he wasn't in the regular season, and he wasn't in the playoffs. And we saw flashes, no doubt about it. But, I mean, he's definitely not above criticism because there's a reason Tourney benched him. There's a reason he saw his ice time decline. And that really hurts. But at the same time, again, never been in the playoffs before, which is totally valid right now to say, like, as an excuse. That's it's understandable for some of these young guys to be in over their heads a little bit. Next year, you can't use that excuse.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man, what happens over the next couple of weeks and months, we will see. I am really, really interested to see where the organization feels like they are at this point, because I think they're not really going to tell us what needs to be done, but they're going to show us, right? If they stand pat in free agency, if they don't do anything big, then that's a clear sign that they trust what they have in this roster. But if they go out and make another trade, maybe that is a signal that they feel like, they need some more help.
Yeah. Obviously, at the beginning of this year, we talked about a little bit GMBA and Andre Tourney making it known that the goal was to make the playoffs, and the goal was just to make it into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now I am curious to see what the conversation is like as they head into next season, and what the goal will be heading into next year. The captain, Clayton Keller, he talked about the belief in this group, and he talked about the belief and the experience of this team, and how that all this was a good learning experience for next season as they try to make a deeper run into the playoffs next year.
I believe so much in this group and the guys that we have, and the character and guys that love coming to the rink and getting better every single day, and it's so fun to come to the rink with these guys. So excited about the future. We're only going to get better. This sucks, but we'll learn from it. We'll break it down, and next time we're in this situation next year, we'll get over the hump.
It's all you can do, man. Learn from it and use that to drive your hunger for next season. Again, as the Mammoth will look to make a deeper run into the playoffs. I think next year, now that you have that experience, it's not just about making it. You have to go through and win a series, and depending on how the Mammoth shake up next season and how everything looks, maybe possibly a second series and make a deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I think Clayton Keller deserves a lot of credit for his performance last night.
Yeah.
You look at the shots taken by this Mammoth team, and first off, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther having one shot on goal apiece. That's inexcusable.
Disappointing. Yeah, that's
in an elimination game. But on the flip side, you've got Clayton Keller, who's normally not a shooter, right? But he's got 7 shots on goal this game. It's not very often that you're going to have a game where Keller has 7 shots on goal. But I think that is a sign of your captain realizing that, hey, this is do or die. Somebody's got to step up and try to put the puck in the back of the net. And ultimately, none of those 7 shots went in, right? But I like seeing the aggressiveness from Clayton Keller. And I know that he's never going to be a shooter, a scorer. He is always going to be that pass-first kind of player. But I do think the next step in his development, if there is any, right, if he wants to become a true star in this league, it would definitely be him taking that step towards being an all-around forward instead of just kind of the creator and the passer, right?
Yeah.
If Keller can find a way to become a guy who can consistently score, the first season here when they were the Utah Hockey Club, he was on the verge of a 100-point season. He was so close. And if he can really dial that in and just be more aggressive, I think that's what it is, honestly. I think it's just a matter of him being more aggressive and taking more shots. He can be a 100-point per season player. And I would want to see that because I think the Mammoth need that. Obviously, you've got Cooley and Guenther, who are the young up-and-coming stars, right? But Keller's the dude in his prime right now. And that's what I want to see from him next year, is him just being more assertive.
I can't remember what game it was exactly, but I remember after a game, Clayton Keller went to the media and essentially said that he wants to set up his guys, he wants to set up his players, and he wants to be the assist guy. But I think in some moments you do want some more aggressiveness from a guy like Clayton Keller, and you do want him to get more points, get more goals. And last night when the Mammoth needed a hero, you expect guys like him to step up, and I thought that he did step up for the most part when having those 7 shots. But there are a couple guys on this roster like Dylan Guenther, like Logan Cooley, who I thought started the series off really, really strong, and then they kind of fizzled out. And I don't know if that's credit to the Vegas and kind of playing their style of hockey and doing a good job on Logan Cooley, on Dylan Guenther. But there's moments like last night when Utah's on the power play when you want Dylan Guenther to take those shots and you want Dylan Guenther to be open to potentially score a goal, and essentially it just didn't work out for him. It didn't work out for him. Logan Cooley, I thought, fizzled out as you got deeper into the series. And again, those are young guys who are going to learn and going to take this experience and hopefully get better from it. But the end of their series wasn't as strong as their beginning.
I totally agree. Yeah, those first couple games, man, Cooley was one of the best players on the ice.
Absolutely.
And you saw that clip of Dowd threatening to freaking kill Logan Cooley, right? Like, that's a 35-year-old man talking to a 21, 22-year-old, threatening to kill him on the ice because he's threatened, because he's so good, right? And we just, as you mentioned, that fizzled out. And it got to the point where Vegas just got in Cooley's head. And I think, credit to them, they did a really good job of throwing Cooley off his game and honestly forcing him to commit a ton of penalties. because penalties are not something
That's
that we
true.
saw Logan
Yeah.
Cooley commit very much throughout the regular season, but especially over the last 2 or 3 games, he was spending some time in the penalty box. And it's not like he was out there losing his cool or anything like that. He just, it's almost Vegas putting Cooley in a vulnerable position to commit those penalties. You see some of those high sticking calls and things like that where it's like really a borderline call. Like some of those I don't think should have been called. Let's be honest. But at the end of the day, they are called, and you send Cooley to the penalty box,
Yeah.
and then he's like almost afraid to be aggressive because he's spending, he's getting all these penalties called on him. So that's when you talk about a playoff experienced team, that's what they do is they find a way to negate the other team's best players because the Mammoth couldn't find a way to shut down Mitch Marner and Dorofeev and some of these Golden Knights.
I was waiting for Mitch Marner to arrive. He hadn't scored a goal all series, and then last night puts 2 past Vijamelka. And, he's obviously for how big that trade was in the offseason and how big it was to get Mitch Marner out to Vegas. I was waiting for him to kind of put his stamp on things and score that goal, and it finally came last night when...
Caught him sleeping, really.
Caught him sleeping.
Caught him sleeping.
Absolutely. Let's hear from Andre Tourigny, the head coach of the Utah Mammoth. He gave his thoughts about this loss, about being eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, and what he wants his guys to learn from it.
I don't really know what to tell you tonight. Hurt. I didn't have that in my bingo card. I was really confident we will go to Vegas tomorrow. I assume some will ask me question about the season and this and that. My head is not there at all. I'm disappointed. Not mad at the player, I'm mad at the fact we lost. And when you're competitive, I hate excuses. I hate taking the easy way out. So failure makes you stronger. You learn from it and makes you better. But in order to make sure that happens, it has to hurt. I don't even want to feel good about it. I want that to hurt, and I want to learn from it. And there will be a ton of things we will unpack and learn and grow as a coach, as a player, as an organization. Our crowd was unbelievable for us all season long. In the playoff, they were at another level. Well, I really love to win it for them.
He wants it to hurt.
Well, yeah.
That reminds me of the conversations and what everybody was talking about. I can't remember who brought it up specifically, but the scars and how the team lacked scars and lacked the experience. And,
Right.
and he wants it to hurt. Hopefully this leaves, again, what we were talking about earlier, hopefully this leaves that scar that the team needs and wants going forward. And again, as Andre Tourigny mentioned it, just learn from it.
You know what this reminds me of? And I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate, right? Playing high school sports, I'm thinking high school football specifically, right? Like sophomore and junior year, the end of the season comes and last game of the season, and I went to Box Elder. We were not very good. We missed the playoffs or like got bounced in the first round of the playoffs every year. And that final game comes around and all the seniors are crying because it's over. And as a sophomore or junior, you're like, oh, that's sad. Like, yeah, this sucks. Oh, well, I'm still going to come back next year, right?
Yeah.
And then by the time your senior year comes around, your season ends and you're like, this really hurts. Like this really, really hurts because you had never understood the stakes before, I guess. And then you
Right.
feel that pain and you're like, man, this...
And then all of a sudden you do.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
And so now, the Mammoth are in the playoffs and they're like, okay, this is fun. This is our first playoff series ever. Yay, it's so exciting in Salt Lake. Like, this is really cool. And then everybody's like, yeah, but, your season is going to be over if you lose this series. And they're like, okay, well, maybe we'll just keep playing and we've got some opportunities. That's okay. We're doing really good. We might push it to 7 games. That's so exciting. And then game 6 ends and you're like, dude, we lost 1 game in overtime, 1 game in double overtime. We blew all these late leads.
Had all these leads.
Like, this really, really hurts. We feel like we left so much meat on the bone. And I totally agree. I love that statement from Tourigny. Like, you want this to hurt. You want these players to feel like, man, we did not perform to the best of our ability. Because, Alex, I'm sitting here right now, the morning after game 6, and to me, it feels more like the Mammoth let this series slip away rather than Vegas just dominating every game. And you
no,
look
absolutely not. They went toe-to-toe, I feel
they
like,
went
every
toe-to-toe,
single game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that last
yesterday.
night, well, but even last night's score was lopsided, right?
It
5-1,
was.
the final.
It was
a 2-1 game halfway through the third period. So I don't know, man. And that's, again, on paper, you say, okay, you've got this one team playing in the playoffs for the first time ever, and the other team who just won the Stanley Cup 3 years ago.
Right.
Which one's going to win?
Right.
Obviously, you'd pick the team that's been here before. But for the Mammoth to push this series so far and have it so close and go toe-to-toe, again, that's where you credit Vegas, because they know what it takes. They know the stakes. They know what to do and when to do it. But really, man, if you are a Utah Mammoth player right now, if you're one of these young guys, it's almost a good thing that they experienced this in their first taste of playoffs ever. So now when they're back to playoffs again, they never want to feel like this, because this sucks. This is terrible.
Credit to Vegas, man. And credit to the move that they made right before the season ended. In March, they move on from their head coach. John Tortorella comes in, and they go on this incredible winning streak to end up winning the division. And then Tortorella uses his playoff experience to dispatch of the Utah Mammoth, and the Vegas Golden Knights move on. John Tortorella gave a lot of credit, though, to Utah in the post-game press conference. And what we were talking about earlier about the future being so bright, he also recognizes and he realized that this young core, it can be and will be very good, and talks about Utah's future in the post-game press conference.
It was a hard-fought series. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Andre and his staff, and that's a good hockey team. I guess we were favored, but that team didn't win 40-plus games, and if you look at their metrics as far as their regular season, that's a team they're going to be reckoned with for quite a while now as far as some of the kids and skill and speed that they have. We're fortunate moving on, but I think Andre and his staff have done a fantastic job with that team.
Massive credit to Tortorella and the turnaround that he had at Vegas, because I remember seeing all the doubts and all the criticisms about the Vegas Golden Knights right before the playoffs started and right before Tortorella took over, and he's been able to turn around, and they looked a lot better. They definitely have played a lot better, and Tortorella's I think there's potential for this Vegas team to make to continue making a deep run. With the way that they're playing right now, and the turnaround that he's been able to have with this Vegas team.
Yeah, the coach thing is weird. I've never seen that before, and I don't know how common that is in hockey. I guess a couple other teams have done that.
It just seems crazy for someone to come in right before the end of the season.
8 games.
And to have this turnaround.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe the more that they play with Torts, the better this team is going to get, and truly unlock their potential, because again, as I mentioned, like, this is a team that was hoisting the trophy just a few years ago, and they have only seemingly added talent since then. I mean, Marner is a great player, one of the best scorers in the league, so who knows? I think they're going to get past Anaheim, just talking about their next opponent, and then they'll be in the Western Conference Finals, probably against the Avalanche. That might be a fun series. I don't know. The Avalanche kind of steamrolled everybody, but you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. We'll see.
I still think it's the Avs Western Conference to lose.
Could be.
All right, we got to take a break here on the Saturday Show. More on the other side when we return. Don't go anywhere. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Christian Esparza. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Let's talk some college football. Obviously, the big news this week happening inside the Big 12 is that Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby, under NCAA investigation for gambling, he's going to enter a rehab treatment program for a gambling addiction. And I think this completely changes the complexity of what the Big 12 might look like come August. Obviously, Texas Tech splashing big amounts of money for Brendan Sorsby, pulling him from Cincinnati. Texas Tech, I think every poll that I've seen, every prediction that I've seen, Texas Tech was the runaway favorite for the Big 12. But now without Sorsby, does it change how people view the Big 12? And does it change who comes out of the Big 12 in that Big 12 championship game?
Oh, no doubt about it, Alex. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of undersell how good Brendan Sorsby is. He's one of the best passers, not in the Big 12, but just in the country. Before all this, you pull up any way too early mock drafts for next year's 2027 NFL draft, and they all have Sorsby as a first-round pick.
Yeah.
This is a dude that, at Cincinnati was good, and he was supposed to go to Texas Tech and be great. And you look at Texas Tech from last year and the quarterback play they had from Baron Morton and Will Hammond, that was their one kind of weak spot. Like, they did not have a dynamic passing game. And Sorsby was supposed to come in and be the cherry on top, man. He was supposed to be basically one of the faces of college football.
Yeah.
At Tech.
As far as, going from Baron Morton to Sorsby, I do think that's a step up. And I think
it's 3 steps up.
Yeah, that's absolutely what they needed last season, right? You remember the college football playoff game that they had and how much their offense struggled against that Oregon defense. And I thought too, this is a step, going into this, despite losing a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, I still thought they brought in some good transfers. I still thought that they now had a step up in the offense with Brendan Sorsby coming in. But obviously this completely changes all that conversation now that he may or may not be eligible to play next season. Obviously, his eligibility isn't impacted yet, and it will be subject to what comes out of this NCAA investigation. But I think everybody now is operating with that in mind, that the precedent in all this is that he will no longer be eligible to play college football. And
I'd be shocked if he does.
Yeah.
Because he was on Indiana, betting on Indiana
on
games.
his own games, yeah.
And even though he didn't appear in them, that is still incredibly illegal. Even as a college football player, you can't bet on college football at all.
Yeah.
Much less on the team that you play for. Not to mention he was below gambling age. He was younger than 21. He should not have been allowed to be making these bets anyways. I don't know how any of this happened.
I saw some On3 report that was saying that he was making up to 20 bets a day.
Yeah. Well, the rumor was, too, that while he was at Cincinnati, he would go to Reds games and do live bets on the pitch.
Yeah.
Next ball's a strike. Next one is a ball. And he was betting, $1 or $2 per pitch, and that adds up over the course of a game, man. Thousands and thousands of bets over the past few years. And yeah, the NCAA is definitely going to look at this. And again, I would be shocked if he comes back, and there are going to be a lot of conspiracies about, is Texas Tech kind of the golden child of the NCAA if they do allow Brendan Sorsby to come back without any sort of suspension? Because I don't see...
That would open up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, I don't see how... I mean, even if he does come back and get like half a season, that's just setting such a dangerous precedent for every NCAA athlete saying, yeah, you can go out there and do this and only miss half a season.
Absolutely.
And I just don't see a world in where that is a good thing to do. You talk about the wild, wild west and everything that college football has turned into over the last 5 years. This is the NCAA's chance to come in and take a stand. I don't see any way, like... The reason that we see the NCAA kind of get scared to take a stand is when there is a chance that they could get sued because of some sort of stupid waiver or whatever. I don't see a world in which Brendan Sorsby is not allowed to come back to college football and Brendan Sorsby has a case to sue the NCAA for that. I don't see a world in where that is a possibility. So in that case, yeah, don't let him come back. And I don't care about the supplemental draft. I don't care about if he has a chance to go to the NFL right now or not. Like, you got to stand by your rules.
Yeah.
And you got to put your foot down. You got to draw a line in the sand. And if somebody crosses it, they need to be punished.
I think, too, lost in all this is, like, let's not forget that Sorsby's also facing a lawsuit from Cincinnati for a breach of contract, for leaving Cincinnati despite having signed the contract. And there's still that looming over to Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah.
And so he's in all kinds of, with the gambling, with this potential lawsuit for him leaving his contract early and going over to Texas Tech, and the reported million that is supposed to be paid back to Cincinnati for leaving.
Well, and it's all a mess.
It's a mess.
Because the rumor was, okay, who leaked this story? Oh, Cincinnati must have leaked it because, they're suing him for that $1 million.
Yeah.
But now it sounds like they're being investigated too because they might have known about this and just let it slide. So who knows what's going to happen? I think that's all a mess too. And these players signing deals and then backing out of them. I do think he deserves to get sued by Cincinnati. I do think, when you put your name on a piece of paper, signed in ink, you got to be held to it. And if you're going to back out of that deal, fine, but pay up.
It's been a messy season for Brendan Sorsby. I think obviously we hope that he's able to go get the help that he needs.
Yeah.
Right from going into the addiction center, but
sure.
Man, it's been a really, really messy offseason for Brendan Sorsby from leaving Cincinnati to getting facing that lawsuit of having to pay back the money that you owe the school, and then now with all this, it's been a messy season for Brendan Sorsby, offseason for Brendan Sorsby. But as far as it goes for Texas Tech, I think the next quarterback in line will be Will Hammond, and we saw Will Hammond, beat Utah up here at Rice Eccles Stadium when Texas Tech and Utah played this past season. He subbed in for Baron Morton when Morton went down. But he's coming off an ACL tear, so he may or may not be ready.
And he was not that good outside of the Utah game.
Yeah.
He was not. He played against Kansas. He completed 7 of 16 passes for 42 yards. At Arizona State, he was 22 of 37 for 167 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Also threw an interception against Kansas, but no touchdown. Against Oklahoma State, 9 of 15 for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, this is not a quarterback that, say this was before the transfer portal was open. This is not a quarterback that Texas Tech would feel comfortable with, right? Hence why they went out and got Brendan Sorsby, who was supposed to be the biggest fish in the pond as far as quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Yeah. Now they don't have anything. The rest of their quarterback room, I've never even heard of any of these guys. Mitch Griffiths, Lloyd Jones III, Holden Phillips.
Holden Phillips is going to be a stud, man.
That is kind of a college name, right?
Going to be a star.
That is the penultimate, college football name.
Well, now instead of, taking a step forward from where you were at quarterback last season, upgrading essentially from Baron Morton to Brendan Sorsby, now it seems like you're really downgrading, going from Baron Morton to if it's Will Hammond or one of those other guys, again, depending on Will Hammond where he is as far as his injury goes. So that, it is, I think, safe to say that now you can expect Texas Tech to probably take a step back a bit from where they were this past season, and to not be as, I guess, looked at as the perennial Big 12 winner and the team that's going to win the Big 12 and the favorite to win the Big 12. And now you take a step back, and so that opens up the door for other teams in the Big 12 to potentially try to make their stamp on the conference and potentially go through it and win. And I think immediately everybody's looking at BYU.
Oh, yeah. This is great news for BYU.
Everybody's looking at BYU as far as the talent that they returned from last season. Getting LJ Martin back is absolutely phenomenal. You get another season and a true spring camp and a true offseason for Bear Bachmeier. Him coming in after the spring portal or during the spring portal last season. And then you have all those players returning on defense, like in Isaiah Glasker. Plus, you bring in Kedu Luave, who is one of the better linebackers in the transfer portal this past offseason. You bring him in. There is a lot to be excited about, despite losing Jay Hill and despite losing some talent, or as far as coaching goes, so losing some coaching on the defensive side of the ball for BYU. There's still a lot of promise there for BYU, and I think with how much you return, immediately your mind goes to, hey, BYU can take advantage of this situation.
Well, and where the Big 12 is right now, they're not one of the top 2 conferences, right? So it's always going to be a war of attrition every single year. Which team returns the most talent? I'm gonna bet on them.
Absolutely.
See what I did there?
Yes.
To win the conference. Texas Tech loses their starting quarterback. Utah loses their head coach. Houston, that's a fake record. I don't count them as towards the top of the Big 12. They had a weak schedule.
I disagree.
Arizona returns their quarterback. They're going to be good. Arizona State lost their quarterback. Iowa State lost their entire roster and their head coach. Kansas State stinks. TCU stinks. Cincinnati stinks. This is great news for the Cougars.
This is phenomenal news for the Cougars.
Cougars. You think Houston's going to be I think people need
to take the Houston Cougars more serious, man.
I'll believe what I see.
Willie Fritz has shown that he can coach, man, and you get Connor Weigman back. You also you picked up some interesting players in the transfer portal.
But you're not going to sit here and say that they're on the same level as BYU right now.
If I had to rank them, I'd say BYU is obviously the first.
Okay.
Then I'd probably go Houston second, and I think I'd put Arizona third.
I'd still pick Utah over Houston.
Really?
Yeah. Definitely.
Even with Kyle Whittingham gone, even with Jason Beck gone, even with how many... obviously, there's a lot more questions about Utah and where they are.
Houston's a fine football team.
post-
I think they're always going to be in the middle of the pack. I think the two best teams in the Big 12 right now are probably BYU and Arizona. I think that is your top tier in the Big 12. You get in the next tier, that's when you can talk about Utah. And maybe Arizona State just because Dillingham's a good coach. And maybe you can put Houston there too. But I would pick, I think BYU and Arizona are the two teams to beat in the Big 12 next year.
Utah, I still have so many questions about before we can get to that level.
It's understandable.
To that point.
They lost a lot, man.
They lost a lot more than BYU did.
Yeah.
You had,
But we can agree that BYU is
I-
the by far number one favorite.
I think there's no contention there. I think BYU is by far the favorite, and I think BYU will end up taking big advantage of this Brendan Sorsby situation and the Texas Tech situation. I think BYU will take the most advantage out of it. Utah, I think there's still a lot of questions for me because not only did you lose Kyle Whittingham, not only did you lose Jason Beck, but you also lost some bona fide starters on that defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Like Smith Snowden, like Teo Johnson, like John Henry Daly, and those are big shoes to fill. Those are guys who had good to great seasons, and those are going to be some big shoes to fill. And so I do have a lot more questions about Utah. I do have questions about Arizona. But I think Houston, I think you know what you're getting with the Cougars, and I think you know what you're getting with Connor Weigman at quarterback, and you know what you're getting from that offense, you know what you're getting from that defense, and they are the number 2 team who can take advantage of this Texas Tech situation.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, the point is who loses the most in the offseason and who can retain the most talent, who can hold on to their guys and keep them from going to the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah.
And right
Houston's
now, that's
right there.
That's Houston. So.
Houston's right there. They lost very, very little this offseason, and BYU, you can say the same thing about BYU. You had guys like Jack Kelly go and graduate. You had guys like Chase Roberts who've moved on, but they've, for the most part, have kept a large core of that roster intact.
Holding on to Satuala
is massive.
And Bear Bachmeier.
Massive.
Huge.
Can't be understated. I
can't even imagine how many teams were trying to hit up Bear Bachmeier because he's a true specimen, right?
Yeah.
He's huge. He's got an arm. That's what every single school wants at quarterback. That's what the pros want. He's going to be fun to watch next year, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And you hear from Kalani Sitake all the time, man. It's not just a Jay Hill defense. It's a BYU defense. And we'll see how Caleb Papinga does now as the defensive coordinator. But I mean, it's a conversation we've had before, Christian. You still have Kalani Sitake. You still have Gary Anderson, who's still a part of that program, and Kalani Sitake made it known right after the Jay Hill departure, and with a couple of some of the spring football availabilities, it's a BYU defense. It's not just Jay Hill's defense.
Yeah,
and that I think gives a lot of hope to BYU fans, and that defense can still be at that same level or even at a similar level to where they were last season, because that was a massive part of their success last year.
I agree.
All right, we got to take a break. On the other side, let's jump into technical fouls. Talk about some of the sillier, funnier storylines of the week. That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
That's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
You'll get hit with a bat.
'cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles, Christian Esparza, walking you through your Saturday morning as we recap the week in sports. And we'll stay with the quarterback conversation, right? And we'll stay with Brendan Sorsby as part of our technical fouls. But this one specifically goes towards an article that was posted about the Brendan Sorsby situation. Kristen, what do you got for us?
Oh, dude, this is really tone deaf by CBS Sports.
It is.
It had to have been on purpose, right? But CBS Sports, I don't even know who wrote this article. Okay, but there was an article talking about it. about Brendan Sorsby leaving the school to go to rehab essentially for his gambling addiction and how it's impacting Texas Tech. And gambling is the big evil villain of this story.
Yes.
Then the very last paragraph of this story. Texas Tech was an overwhelming favorite to repeat as Big 12 champions after acquiring Sorsby this offseason, but has now moved to even money at plus 100 via FanDuel Sportsbook after Monday's news. Yeah. The Red Raiders' projected win total has also decreased, going from 11.5 at opening to 10.5 victories, and Sorsby's no longer on FanDuel's Heisman Trophy odds list after opening at plus 2,500, just outside the top 10. So it's so funny. So ironic that they're talking about, this player's career, college quarterback's career was ruined.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't stop gambling. And let's throw all these gambling odds in our article talking about it.
A player enters rehab for a gambling addiction, and the second paragraph of this article discusses gambling odds for Texas Tech for Brendan Sorsby, and it doesn't make sense. It is very tone deaf, and I think it just tells you about.
It had to have been on purpose.
I think it's more just a look of where sports is right now.
Yeah. I mean, gambling is king. It literally controls everything that happens in sports. We can have a whole conversation about it. Yeah. It started this whole tanking thing in the NBA and how the Jazz were made out to be this big bad face of tanking when they're just one of 10 teams doing it. Yeah. And it's because of the gamblers.
You have ESPN, who has the ticker at the bottom with all their scores and all their previews, and they have the over-unders or the odds of who's going to win. You have, I feel like everything and everywhere is getting sponsored now by betting books like FanDuel, like DraftKings, etc. And it's just all in your face, really, as you consume sports.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. It's bad.
I hate it.
And now we have, a situation where this quarterback who was, supposed to help Texas Tech repeat, and he's now in rehab because of this gambling addiction. But it's hard, man, because it's just all up in your face everywhere you go and everywhere you look when it comes to sports.
That's all they care about.
But you're absolutely right, man.
And the worst part about it is it's an addictive behavior that they are capitalizing. They are, I guess,
they're capitalizing.
They're taking advantage of people with this addiction, and it's tough.
Very tone deaf from the article that was posted to have all the betting odds on a story about a player who is now going into rehab for a gambling addiction. That is a technical foul to CBS Sports. Technical foul on the Hawks, Magic, and the Rockets. We're going to jump into some NBA playoff talk here in just a moment, but we have to poke a little fun at the teams for historic losing.
These were all. Oh, they weren't all elimination games. It was the Pistons tied the series with the Magic, but the Rockets and the Hawks were eliminated. I do want to point out to you also, remember this season, Bam Adebayo had 83 points in a game.
Yes.
In a regular season game. In the playoffs, the Magic and the Rockets both couldn't even crack 80.
Wild.
79 points for the Magic, 78 points for the Rockets. And the Hawks, they scored 89, but they got whooped 140 to 89. One of the largest deficits ever in a playoff game. One of the largest deficits ever at halftime in a playoff game. That was absolutely brutal. The Magic had 45 minutes of real time between two of their baskets, 8:46 Eastern to 9:31 Eastern.
Was it 28 straight?
23 straight misses. Most by any playoff team this century for the Magic. And then the Rockets are just a mess. Going back to the whole Kevin Durant burner thing leaking, it's clear that took a toll on this team.
Haven't been the same.
And it's amazing how Kevin Durant keeps doing this to every single team that he goes to. Somebody thinks that he is going to be the piece that puts them over the top, and he goes in and just absolutely tears the organization apart from the inside.
Yeah.
This is a Houston Rockets team that lost in the first round last year. They were supposed to bring in Kevin Durant, and that was supposed to fix all of their problems. He came in, and they've been arguably worse.
I'll never forget the hype that KD had when he went to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Because James Harden followed him there, right? And they were building a quote-unquote super team. Yep. And the second he got hurt, it just completely fizzled away.
He's going to leave Houston this summer, and somebody's going to talk themselves into Kevin Durant. We're going to see the same story all over again. Whether it's Portland or whether it's, some other young team that's on the up and up who thinks that all they need is a scorer, just like Houston thought, beware Kevin Durant.
It's unfortunate for Houston, man. I thought that, they were last season, right before they made this move, they were close.
Yeah.
And then I feel like this KD move has now pushed them back.
It completely derailed this franchise's plans because they lose to the Lakers with no Luka Doncic and no Austin Reeves. I know Austin Reeves came back towards the end of the series, right? But this series never should have went 6 or 7 games. When a 41-year-old LeBron James is your best player and he's throwing lobs to his kid who was a 55th overall pick, and that's winning the series, this is a very, very bad Houston Rockets team. I can't stress that enough. This Lakers team that they lost to was really, really flawed, even with Luka and Austin Reeves. And they were both out, yet they were still able to beat the Rockets. I can't believe
it. Rockets bow out 4-2. Lakers hold off the comeback, and the Los Angeles Lakers move on. We're going to jump into some NBA playoff talk, as well as what's going on with the lottery reform. Christian, pull out your handbook, pull out your rule book, and let us know what's going on with this draft lottery reform. That's coming up on the other side here on the Saturday show. It is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.